Hey, gun people. So California changed their use of force policy, and everybody's like, oh, California just changed their policy. It's no longer reasonable. It's necessary. Well, I'm sorry, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think it's all a dog and pony show, and the left is out there trying to tell everybody that they care about them and they're trying to protect them when it really changes nothing. So Assembly AB 392, Standards of Deadly Force by the Police, a measure, and this was already passed, it's just waiting for the governor's signature. Police use force, one of the strictest in the country, cleared the legislation. Assembly Bill 392 passed Monday, the final leg of the year-long process. Deadly force, reasonable to only when necessary. Now, I think when I first came in the Air Force back in '77, we had to use necessary force. It was necessary was in the deadly force and force used. Reasonable became later because necessary became so convoluted. Now, if somebody wants to tell me how this really matters, this is like any other law. This is like any other policy. This gives the politicians to play their liberal left-wing crap when they have a shooting that they can make into a racist or hate crime or anything like that. Then they can say it wasn't necessary. And to me, whether it's reasonable or necessary or reasonably necessary or necessarily reasonable, they're all terms that can be defined and believed in whatever way somebody wants to define them. If I can reasonably shoot you, then it's going to be necessary. Because if it wasn't necessary in my mind, it wouldn't be reasonable. If it's reasonable, it's probably necessary. So, nothing's going to change. As long as the officer can say, I was in fear of my life, it's going to be necessary. But Rick, they said it was fear of their life to be reasonable. It's going to be fear of my life for necessary. I don't think this changes anything. It only gives the politicians more wiggle room to charge maybe somebody they don't like politically with, we don't think this was necessary, although it was reasonable. How can it be reasonable and not be necessary? Or how can it be not necessary but reasonable? If you can't answer that, how does this change? I know somebody's going to be here, well, necessary means you had no other choice. That's not what necessarily means. Necessary means, under the officer's training and experience in that situation, would another officer believe it was necessary? Just like now, when use of force is judged on officers, it's as another officer with the same amount of experience and training, would he have acted the same way and would he think it's reasonable? So, I don't think this does a damn thing, but the left is out there tooting their horn and the media is covering it as some great social justice superpower. They're promoting the left-wing governor who does nothing but spend money and drive the state further into debt and corruption and sanctuary and filth and etc. But the left is praising him because he made this big change and he's going to sign it. And the legislative work together, and look how great government is. Really? They spent years figuring out what's the difference between reasonable and necessary? I guarantee you the statute is not going to read much damn difference. And you're not going to be able to say, oh, this is a much higher. Oh, necessary is much higher standard. Oh, this is so much better. Cops aren't going to be able to shoot anybody now because it's not necessary. Where before, it was reasonable. I don't buy it. It's a scam. It's another mumbo-jumbo left-wing political government fooling the ignorant and making them think they're working for you when in actuality they could give a shit. They just want another term so they can cut more backdoor deals. That's my take on the new law. You can take it or leave it, argue out in the comments. We'll end that there.